Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the It's Needed podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement in the community. It's your boy Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Bears United, and I'm joined today by the light-skinned wonder himself, Mr. Oh No, it's the Popo.
What's up, brother? What's the word?
Oh, nothing much, man. You got a little size extra small shirt on over there, I see.
No, this is a big shirt, actually, man. I'm just sweaty right now, so it's like stuck to me. I had to rush from the gym to get home, so I was like 5 minutes late, and it's the first time I've ever been late for the podcast, so I just want to put that out there.
So, Billy, you know what that really means? That means he got a shirt, made it a little bit small, put some water on it, so that way he could try to show us that he's been working out.
You're on to my secrets.
We were joined by Billy himself, and shout out to Billy. Somebody, I was talking to Aaron, 911 Strong yesterday. He was like, I love that you guys added Billy, man. He's such a good additive. But I was like, Billy's been on the podcast for like 2 years, but but
Billy is like stepping out of his comfort zone a little bit. Like, he's like way more involved than what he used to be, because remember back in the day he would tell us like, hey, don't talk to me during the podcast.
He did.
I do. And when you guys had me on as the guest, I like re-recorded all my answers.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he sure did.
Yes.
He sure did.
It's all proper, professional. Like, bro, like that was not what you said when we
I'm
recorded
listening to the podcast like, when
did he say that? Oh man. So thanks for Bill. We also have a guest in the studio today who's a really good friend of mine, actually a pastor of my church, Caleb Booth. What's up, Caleb? Caleb doesn't have a mic, but he's in the background. So anyways, I hope all is well, and thanks to everybody that's been listening to our podcast recently. We actually had some really cool comments come through. I don't know if you guys have been watching the review feed on Apple iTunes, but there were some really cool ones that came in the last few weeks. So nice. For those of you guys that bring those through, we appreciate them. Today, I just want to give you guys fair warning. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter podcast. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I am teeing off at 10:15.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
So me and my brother Caleb are going to be hitting the links at 10:15. And so I want to get some content created for our IG before we do that. So that's why we're going to cut a little short. So, but two things, man. Before we get into our topic, there were two disturbing videos that I watched yesterday that were very, very disturbing. The first one was, I saw a video of some girl and her boyfriend. They were laughing. They were like, it's been 3 days since we killed somebody. So then the story goes on, the news story goes on, and I guess these two, teenagers, the girl killed her dad, and the guy that he's with is her boyfriend. And so I guess dad did not like the boyfriend, rightfully so. And so they end up killing him, and they're like bragging about it on a video. And so very, very scary. And actually, somebody reached out to me on my IG, on my DM, and said that they work at the school that the girl went to, and they said that she was a little off. And so that was disturbing. And then I watched another video my buddy sent me, which was this guy, I can't remember his name. Actually, I'm gonna pull it up right now. I don't know if he's like an influencer or what, but he was on an IG live with his friend, and as he's on this IG live, I guess he's sitting in a car. His name is Indian Red Boy. He's sitting in a car. He's a rapper, and literally some dudes do a drive by, and like the first bullet you can tell hits him, and then like I think he gets hit a couple more times, and his buddy's like looking like, what's going on, and you can tell he's like gets shot, like he's in shock. And then like his buddy's like, bro, where you at, bro? Where you at? And then he's like, help, like he can't talk, and takes his last breaths on IG live.
Whoa. Yeah, the world is crazy right now, man. The world is it's really crazy. Like we're seeing stuff like that here, like in Ohio, man. Like kids with guns, kids getting shot. I'm talking like 6 years old, 4 years old, like drive-bys with kids in the car. Like we live in very interesting times right now. That's for sure.
And it doesn't help. Like social media only. It makes people want to do a lot more of these heinous things because they want that clout. And so, this whole idea of clout chasing is real. It's scary because people will do anything in the name of just getting clout. And so, if you're a parent, I remember we had Colin Karchner on here, and, RIP to him. We had an episode last year where he was talking about the dangers of internet security and depression. And Colin, he passed away last year, but man, he was doing some phenomenal work. And so if you guys get a chance, go back and listen to that. I think he was one of our top episodes when we did our recap. So yeah, some crazy stuff, crazy times. Me and Caleb were talking about that on the way over here, which kind of leads me into today's topic, which will be a brief one, but a very important one. And the topic I want to talk about today is this whole idea of young officers moving up the ranks or wanting to move up the ranks quickly. And the reason we got there is because Caleb said something that was interesting. He said, hey, we have this generation right now that really wants to do a lot of good. They in their hearts, they want to get involved in these social issues that are going on. And I agreed with them. So yeah, you have a whole bunch of a generation that really want to get involved. The downside to that, though, is that even though they want to get involved, they lack a lot of the experience to get involved. And so their heart's in the right place, but their actions aren't necessarily in the right place. And I witnessed that a few years ago, or last year, after the George Floyd, when I went to the city council meeting, is all these kids were there talking about defund the police and this and that, but they were reacting based off of their emotions and not based off of what's real. And so that kind of transitioned me over into thinking about law enforcement. And AJ, you could probably relate to this, is like, we have a lot of officers that once you get hired, you come through the door, once you kind of figure out what's going on, you want to immediately start going to do SWAT team, detectives, and this and that. And then you have the older generation that's like, you need to learn your day job 5 years on before you even think about doing a special assignment. And so I've always kind of been in the middle because I've always been a hot charger just by me being an athlete and wanting to do different things throughout my life. I've always been one of those guys that wants to go out there and do my best and have success. But now, 8 years after, working in this profession, I see the value of experience of what some of the older gentlemen talk about, of why you need to learn your day job and the importance of experience. And so I think this is important to have a balance. So I want to talk to you and get your take on that.
So my department has a 3-year rule. So first off, my department is different than a majority of other major cities just because I'd say 90% of our jobs are seniority based. So like even SWAT, right? Like you could come in as a sniper from the Marines and know all this stuff. You ain't getting a SWAT job until you got 18, 20 years on the job.
Wow.
Like, you better stay in shape. Yeah. And everything's like that.
It's a long time to stay in shape.
School resource and you name it. Like all of our like community liaison jobs, like K9, motorcycle, horses, helicopter, all of that. It's all seniority based. Now there are a couple jobs that the chief could pick, but it's very few and far between when you see that. So for us, you need a minimum of 3 years on the street before you can take the sergeant's exam. And even then, right? Like I feel like it should be 5. I do feel like 5 years is a sweet spot, just because, especially depending on where you work, because you might work one precinct for 2 years and learn everything you need to know. But if you work another precinct for 5 years, you still might be wishy-washy. I do think you need time. In my opinion, 5 years is the sweet spot. That was when I finally felt like I had a good grasp on not only what the profession entails, but like everything else that surrounds it, like why the community feels this way. And, maybe I should have a better understanding of what my community's needs are. And, I came with like a little more passion and empathy other than going in and being like, I'm the police, you're going to listen to me. So there's a lot more that goes into it the more time you have, right?
So are you saying 5 years for a promotion or 5 years to get to a special assignment, or both?
You see, yeah, it was like, it's funny hearing someone say that, because like here it's just a different world. Like 5 years for a assignment, what? But yeah, I think in general, because the moment you leave patrol, like depending on what your assignment is, like you're still going to need the foundation that's laid when you're on patrol, right? Like that teaches you a lot. Like it teaches you to be comfortable being in charge. It teaches you the passion, the empathy. It teaches you how to talk to people. And that's the foundation for these special units, right? So if you go into SWAT, like you're still going to need that foundation to talk to people, whether it's hostage negotiation, whether it's a barricade and you can't come out the house and call them out, right? Like say you're trapped in the hallway and they're in the door type of situation, like, Vice, the motorcycle unit, you're going to need that foundation of a patrolman's viewpoint in order to excel in those jobs. So yeah, I say 5 across the board.
So this might be, me and AJ rarely disagree. And I'm not necessarily totally disagreeing with you, but I kind of have a different outlook on it. I think that it's not a one size fits all. And here's my perspective of it, because I think I spent about 4 years on patrol, a little over 4 years before I got my first special assignment as a school resource officer. Those 4 years were invaluable to me. I mean, I learned, like AJ was talking about, I learned so many valuable lessons. I was involved in critical incidents. I was involved in, people taking their lives in front of me, people taking the lives of somebody else, and we have to do like work a crime scene. There's so many different things that I had to learn, and I wouldn't have been able to get that without that experience. But at the same time, there are some people that come into the profession that have a certain skill set that's very valuable. Yeah. That I think that if they have a skill set that's valuable that can push a certain unit forward, we shouldn't hold them to a 5-year standard just because there's a overall, now you need to do 5 years before you can go there, because it's almost detrimental to not only the department, but that individual. It's detrimental to the department because we're keeping somebody on the sideline who should be in the game. And it's detrimental to that individual because it takes the wind out of their sails when they come in super motivated, want to do things, but yet they keep getting told no just because they don't have the time on, but yet they have the talent. And so, like, for example, you might have the 21-year-old person that gets out of the academy, super young, no life experience. That's a person that needs time in the field, because no matter what you tell me, you don't really possess a whole bunch of life experience at 21 unless you grew up in a harder neighborhood. But even if you still did grow up in a harder neighborhood, there's certain things that you need to experience in life. But if you're 27, 28 years old, married, kids, had a couple jobs before you did this, grew up in some rougher neighborhoods, your learning curve as far as that life experience is gonna be a lot shorter than the person that's only been in the job, like doesn't have that life experience. And so, at my department, they've done a really good job. They've given people special assignments with a lot less than 5 years on the job. But at the same time, there's that argument, well, you should have 5 years on the job before you get that special assignment. So I think this is good topic, simply because I've heard the old heads that are like, man, these young guys, they don't got it like they used to, or they don't do things like we used to. But then you got the young Chargers that are like, man, like, I want to go out there and do these things, but I keep getting told no. And so how do you keep a person motivated? And I think I'm a prime example. I was one of those guys that came in and wanted to be freaking detective and this and that, like day 2 on the job. And that wasn't because I was being arrogant or cocky, but it was just, I think it was just more so me being involved in athletics my whole time. Think about it as an athlete. Caleb was an athlete. Billy was an athlete. You're an athlete. As an athlete, AJ wasn't really no athlete. But as an athlete, think about it. That's what you do. Like, when you make a team, you're not making a team to sit on the bench for 2 years before they say, okay, you can get in the game. Like when you're trying out because you want to be the starter, right? So I think that was what was discouraging coming into this job, is I kind of came in with that same mentality, and yet I was being told to sit on the bench. Now I understand why I was being told to sit on the bench, but a lot of younger guys don't understand that.
No, you're right. So when I had a year, probably less than a year on the department, I was on scene this chaotic shooting scene, right? And people are yelling at us, throwing stuff at us, and the police didn't shoot anybody. It was civilian versus civilian, but somebody had died and their body was still on scene. So these detectives were nearby, so they hear the chaos on the radio. So they're going to swing by, so they stop by and they hear me laying into some people. I mean, going off on some people. So afterwards, this detective pulls me aside. He's like, "Hey man, what's your name?" I'm like, "Where you from?" He asking me all these questions. I'm like, "Bro, who are you? Get out of here, bro! What are you right? You about to arrest me?" So afterwards, I get an email. So what we can do, before you hit your 3 years or whatever the seniority number is for you to get these jobs, is you could go on a temporary assignment, right? So you could do a 90-day temp, a 6-month temp. Yeah, you'd be up there for a couple of years, right? Depending on how you do. So he's like, "Hey, I'd like to bring you up and see if you could, buy some dope, man. You got the mouthpiece for sure. So, what do you think about it?" So I'm like, "Say less, let's do it," right? Man, they had me in all sorts of afties, trap houses, no gun, no badge, no radio. I'm in there with a wad of money buying 8 balls, big old bags of weed, right? And it was fun. It was a game to me, right?
They're like, AJ, you look like you've done this before.
Oh man, right.
You're a little too good at this. You're a little too good at this.
Oh man, but yeah, I got some crazy stories from those times. But I was extremely successful, and I brought a different perspective on the mission at hand, right? So I got to be careful how I say some of this stuff. So when I would make these transactions, right? So this dude's like, yeah, I got an 8 ball for, whatever, right? So I'd pull the money out, but I'd set my phone at an angle and the screen would be black, but it would record the transaction. So that way, when we went to court, I could show that in court, like, oh, he ain't sent me that dope. Well, what's this video show, right? And when I showed the detective that, he was like, bro, I've never seen anything like that a day in my life. So much so, I don't know if I ever shared this picture on, y'all gonna laugh. So much so.
So what you're saying is you're really good at lying.
That one of the afties or one of the trap houses made me like a member. Yeah, huh? Yeah. So one of these afties made me a member, right? Like there were like pictures when you first walked in. There was Polaroid pictures all on the wall, and when you would come in, if your picture wasn't on the wall, there was a big old dude with a gun on his hip. He would look and he'd be like, "Yeah, your picture ain't up there." And then you had to like talk to somebody, or you had to know somebody to get in, and they kind of watch you the whole time. So anyway, they made me a picture. I'm gonna show you this picture. All right, don't judge me, Bob.
Man,
and you see all the pictures behind me, right?
They told you to buy the drugs, not do the drugs.
So I show the camera.
Oh man.
See that. But I'll send it to Billy, that way he could chop it in. But
Bro,
anyway, my point in sharing that story is I was very valuable and successful in doing these things because I was so young. But what I've seen happen on the flip side, just to play devil's advocate here, is I've seen young officers go on these temporary assignments and then come back, and they don't know. Not only do they not know how to do their job, but it's like you don't even want to be by this person because they snatching people up and cussing them out like in a heartbeat. You're like, whoa, hey, chill. That's 80-year-old grandma, bro. What you doing? It's like, yeah, I know she got dope though. Give me the dope, granny. It's like, whoa, hold on, time out.
Yeah.
So I guess it really depends on like your department. So like for us, we can't. There are very few jobs. We could go on like federal temps where you're just gone, right? Like you come here and you speak Spanish and you got a certain swag to you, you get snatched up by narcotics or one of the Fed jobs, right? DEAs will snatch you up, you're gone forever, right? We'll never see you. But the majority of our jobs, you get snatched up for 1, 2 years, 3 years if you're lucky. If you're really good, then you got to come back to patrol. And you might come back to patrol crazy. Like, yeah. So I guess it depends on the department you work for, but there are definitely benefits to that. And I do think like narcotics and drugs are one of the major ones, because there's a guy that works on my department who got caught selling crack as a juvenile, had a gun, got arrested, got his life together, got a full athletic scholarship to like a really nice college, became financially independent, and then said, you know what, I need to go back into law enforcement. Not only law enforcement, but the city that arrested me, and do the same thing that cop did to me when he arrested me, which was have like a little heart-to-heart with him in the cruiser. And somebody like that, like if they would have snatched him up when he first got on, oh my goodness, he'd be out here killing it now. He'd be out here probably a fake kingpin, right? Moving and selling dope from Mexico and whatnot.
And so I want to remind people, if you're listening to this, I want you guys to be reminded that law enforcement, yeah, we are public servants, and yeah, we are, a governmental entity. But at the end of the day, we're a business. And the reason I say that is because we have this tendency to think that it's a one size fits all for everything in law enforcement. Like, nope, I did it this way, so you have to do it this way. And so if you see somebody on a different path than you took or somebody else took, you can't immediately get angry with that or upset with it just because there are different roles within the organization. Think about it. I mean, at some point in time, somebody's got to run the police department. And so that is going to take a different type of officer than the person that's a go-getter, dope getter, all this other stuff. You need somebody that can think from an administrative standpoint, that can think about liabilities. And so you may groom a person to say, hey, look, we need him more on the administrative side of things. But then you also need those people like AJ that's going to go out there and be the dope boy himself and can get all the drugs off the street because of experience. And so there's not a one-size solution to this. And I think that you shouldn't get upset when you see people taking a different path than you took. And I think that's what I see too many times in law enforcement is like, you know what? Oh, no, that's not how we do it. That's not, they need to do this, that, and that before they can get to that. Well, who says? And I give an example kind of similar to you. I was like a newer cop. I was like only probably like a year on maybe, like by myself as a solo officer. And we went on a call one time. It was unknown trouble that came out. We get on scene. We found that somebody was shot on the inside of this house. And so when we get there on scene, I had arrived a little bit late, but there's this guy outside, and he's a black guy. He's arguing with all of our officers, but he's not allowing us to get inside the house to try to save whoever's in there that's been shot. And this guy, we knew who this guy was. He had been arrested numerous of times in our city, so we just knew who he was. We knew he wasn't a good dude. We knew he's been a bad dude, and so he is preventing us from getting in the house to go figure out what's going on. And we know that there's a shooting that's occurred inside. So when they're arguing, I mean, we get there on scene, I'm seeing my partners going back and forth. They're not making any progress with them. And so I get there on scene, I see who it is, and I'm like, hey, bro, like, what's going on? Like, we start chatting. I'm like, hey, calm down. Like, I know you all mad and stuff, but calm down. Like, I need you to chill out for a second. Come over here, man. Let's come over here. So I get them to listen to me. We pat him down. My partners are able to go inside. Sure enough, they found out somebody's inside shot, and he ends up dying on the scene. And so later on, we go back to the station. They take everybody back to the station. And so it's just like the first 48. Everybody's in their own cell, cold, stuff like that. And we got to figure out who did it. And so nobody's saying nothing. We have 3 people detained at this point in time. Nobody's saying nothing. And so, I'm sitting there just in there like chilling, like minding my own business, because I'm waiting for the detectives come in. Detectives come in, they can't crack them. They're like, they can't crack anybody. So then I go in there, I'm like, hey, bro, you want some McDonald's? He's like, for real? I'm like, yeah, man, you want some McDonald's? He's like, yeah. And I was like, what you want? He was like, I want this and that. I was like, okay, cool. He was like, you gonna get that? I was like, yeah. I got these cheeseburgers. So yeah, so we gave them to him and everything. So then finally, after a while, they're like, hey, Ryan, you want to go try to talk to him? You were able to get him to cooperate earlier. I was like, yeah, I'll go talk to him. So I'm in there just wrapping it up. Mind you, I've only been on the job like a year. I'm like, hey, look, bro, like, let me just keep it real with you. Like, nobody's in here saying nothing about nothing. You got a record. I was like, so outside looking in, if we were looking at everybody that we got detained here, who's everybody gonna think that everybody's gonna think that you did it, right? And if you keep saying you didn't do it, then, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't want to leave this one up to chance if we had to just guess who did it. I was like, so at the end of the day, there's 2 things you could do. Either one, if you did it, then honesty goes a long way, and I can't tell you that you're gonna get off, but I'm telling you, honesty helps a lot of things. I've seen it before. The other part is if you didn't do it, I don't want to make you out to be a snitch. But I'm going to tell you this. I was like, at the end of this interview, and in about like an hour, I'm going to go home and I'm going to sleep peacefully. I'm not even going to think about this. I got my own bed to go to. At the end of this, for you, if you don't want to say what happened, I can't say it's going to be the same for you. So it is what it is. I'll just leave you with that. And I'm going to go out here and do what I got to do because I'm almost off. So as I start to walk out the door, he's like, hey, tell me. I want to tell you something. So then I'm like, all right, bet. So as soon as before I turn around, look at him in my mind, I'm like, got him. So I turn back around. And so he's like, hey, man, close the door. So he starts to whisper and stuff. And then he basically...
That cheeseburger was cold.
Right? So he confesses to who did it. And he's like, hey, he points to the next door. He's like, hey, he did it. And so we get a full confession as far as who did the crime. Realize it wasn't him. And we, had he not said that, they would have definitely pinned it on him. And so my point to that, though, is like, I only had a year on experience, but it was a lot of that life experience growing up in where I was at, going to school in Las Vegas, being around a plethora of different people. Those different things lent to the experience that I had. And so that type of person might be valuable in a special assignment if we can get more of this as opposed to the people that are there. And so I say that to say, like, for the younger cop out there, don't be discouraged. Your patrol is your place to shine. If you know you're good at something, go out there and do the best of your ability in a patrol assignment, and people will recognize that, and they will put you in the position that you need to be more beneficial to the department. And if you're one of those old heads out there that's like, oh no, you need 5 years on a job, trust me, being on the job 8 years, I understand what you mean by experience is valuable, because you are absolutely correct. But don't try to pigeonhole people and make it seem like they got to go take the path that you took. They might have talents, that you may not have had. And the last thing I'll say, and I'm gonna turn over to you, AJ, is like, I always equate it to this: when you watch the NFL draft every single year, and they get up on that stage and they draft these number 1 picks, these number 2 picks. They're not drafting these people to put them on the bench for 3 or 4 years and then hopefully they play. They're drafting these people because they want them to come onto the field as soon as they can, as soon as they're capable of doing it. And so what that does is, not only does it motivate that young person like, hey, man, I got to live up to the expectations that I was drafted on, but it also makes the veterans, it keeps them on their toes because they know they're gunning for that number 1 spot. It's a very similar concept. When we get these new officers in the room, we want these people to go out there, be hot chargers, because we know at the very beginning of their career, that's when you can actually get them to be proactive. And so don't be mad just because they're coming for your spots in many ways. And so I'll turn it over to you, bro.
And in the nicest way possible, stay in your lane. Like let me say that one more time. Stay in your lane. So when I first started speaking at universities, when I came back from Boston, I came to the substation to pick up like my radio or something was in the locker room. And as I was coming in, ironically, a group of officers were in there talking about me, right? And they're like, well, we don't know why AJ gets to do this. It's bullcrap that AJ gets to do this, blah, blah, blah. So you know me, I come in like the Hawk, like, boom. Hey, what y'all here talking about? And they're like, oh, well, we was just talking about you, man. Like, it's cool that you got to go to Harvard and all, but
we love
like,
your bald head.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, I was like, well, I overheard, I'm pointing the officer out. Like, I overheard you say that you think it's bullcrap that I get to go. But if you were offered to go, would you go? And he was like, well, no, I'm not interested in doing that. And I'm like, well, why do you care? Like, why do you, someone who has zero interest in doing what I'm doing, care about what I'm doing? Right? Like, I'm speaking at a university. You have zero interest, zero concern about speaking at a university. What's it matter? And he's like, well, I'm just saying, man, like, you only been on like, I think at the time I had like 4 years on. You only been on like 4 years, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, but you have to understand, like, first off, I didn't ask to go to Harvard, right? Like, they reached out to me because of X, Y, and Z, right? Now, if you have a problem with that, you have a problem with life as a whole. That's something we can talk about later, right? So we squared away. Then there's another officer who I heard complaining about it too. So I look at him and I'm like, so what about you? I'm like, let me guess, you wouldn't take it up either. He's like, nah. He's like, I would go. And I'm like, well, what have you done to put yourself in a position to go and do what I did? And he's like, well, not all of us grew up in the hood like AJ, blah, 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 and do this and do that, right? And I'm like, it's not about, like, you think I wanted to grow up in the hood, right?
And
like,
do you think because you grew up in the hood, it automatically grants you an opportunity to go to Harvard?
That's exactly it. And that thought process and that conversation applies to exactly what we're talking about now. Like, if you know an officer that went somewhere, do you even have any interest in going to that job? And if you do, then why did that person get picked up over you? If I'm running on a track and the person beside me is roasting me, I'm not going to be like, oh, this ain't fair. This person's faster than me. I'm going to go home and start training, right? If I want to beat that person, I'm going to start training. I'm going to be like, oh, look, he's running faster. This ain't fair, right? I'm looking at Billy running 12 miles. I'm like, yo, I'm motivated. I'm going to go out here and get it, which is why I was out there running before this podcast. You said what?
I said he is running 12 miles now. Billy
is killing it right now, man. Billy going to show up with a 16 pack. Like, it's going to come all the way up to his neck.
Oh, man.
But, I mean that when I say it, and like I said, I try to say it as nice as I can, but it's very valuable that you hear that, very important that you hear that, like, stay in your lane. Like, and I know certain departments, have favoritism, and that's an issue that a lot of departments run into. It's like the good old boy system, right? Like, oh, well, this is the chief's nephew. He got the gang unit job as soon as he got on. Like, I get that. I get it. It goes on. We don't have to go through that because everything is seniority based, which has its own set of issues. But other than that, ask yourself, why did this person get that job?
Yeah. And if you're one of those people that's not doing the work, then you really shouldn't be talking. Like, that's what I think annoys me the most is, like, a lot of the people that don't want to go and put the time and work in, they're the ones that complain when somebody else gets something and they're mad because they didn't get it, but they didn't want to do it. Like, man, one of my biggest pet peeves is people that show up, do their job, go home, and expect to get more. Because they're always like, oh, man, like, I should get kudos. I show up, I do my work, I work hard and go home. It's like, I get that. And that's fine. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But any successful person I know, when they go home, they're not off. They're doing things when everybody else is chilling. They're up grinding when everybody else is asleep. And so don't be mad for the person that puts in extra effort and extra time to get what they want. And when they get it, don't crucify them and be like, oh, well, he's only been here for a year or 2 years and he's already getting that. Well, that person's probably been putting in a lot of work. And so, no, you don't just get credit for putting your name on the paper. I'm sorry. It don't work that way. It don't work that way. Oh, everybody wants credit for putting their name on the paper and expects to get an A+.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, no, you might get an A, but you're not gonna get the A+. You want that eval that says I exceeded the standard, but you ain't done exceeding the standard work. Like that's the part that just, I guess, infuriates me when we talk about like, and I'm bringing that up as talking about evaluations, employee evaluations. We all get them. I get them at my department. I'm sure you guys get them. Mm-hmm. But the way we get our employee evaluations they go meets the standards, or I think needs improvement, meets the standards, exceeds the standards, and then superior exceeds the standard, or superior, or consistently superior, something like that. And so you'll get an employee that gets a meets the standards eval, and they're upset because they're like, oh man, like, why am I getting a meets the standards? But then when you look at what they do, is like, well, that's what you're doing. You're meeting the standard. But exceeding the standard means, like, if you got to show up at 6 o'clock, but you show up at 5:55 every day, you're exceeding that standard. Mm-hmm. If you show up and your uniform is, okay, it looks okay, but you got the employee that shows up, it's always crisp, it's always sharp, well, you're exceeding that standard. If you are that person that, at every single day for the whole year, when EOW, end of watch, is at 6 o'clock and you're at the desk at 6 o'clock leaving, okay, you're meeting the standard. But if you're that employee that, hey man, it's 6 o'clock, I know I should be off at 6, but I got some work that needs to be done, or there's an investigation, there's an interview that needs to be done, and I'm gonna do it, and so I end up leaving at 7 o'clock, that's exceeding the standard. So don't expect an exceeding the standard eval when you're a meets the standard employee.
Mm-hmm. So I listen to Drake, all right, like the rapper Drake, and he has a line in one of his songs, and the first time I heard him say it, it was one of those, like, you listen to a song and you hear something like, ooh, and you don't even finish the rest of the song. You got to go back and like re-listen to that one part over and over again. I still do that to this day. But in the rap, he said, I'm the type of say a prayer and then go get what I just prayed for. And that's exactly what we're talking about,
you
right?
Like, get my pastor out of his seat right now, because now you're speaking his language. Because we talked about this in church a couple weeks
ago. but that's what we're talking about, right? So like James 2:26, faith without works is dead.
Yeah, yep.
So you can't sit in your car and wish or pray for this new job if you ain't putting in the work for it. Mm-hmm. You're not putting in the work. Mm-hmm. Don't be mad if I'm in the position to receive the trophy or receive the job or receive the promotion and I put in the work, and you over there like, man, I've been asking and I've been praying for this job, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but so have I. But the difference is I've been grinding for this. I've been preparing my whole life for this. Well, why does AJ get to go to the Harvard and speak? Because of my whole life has led me up until this point. Like, oh yeah, AJ can't, help that he's from the hood and blah, blah, blah. But yes, but everything that I've done past that, getting my life together, stepping out my comfort zone, becoming a police officer, going against the odds. Like, these are all things that you need to take into consideration. So like what Ryan is saying is absolutely right. Like, even though we don't see eye to eye on like the exact amount of years, don't be mad at anyone else for getting a job if you ain't putting the work in.
It's a simple and it's not just law enforcement. It's just in life in general, because what we're talking about are issues that are across the board. You can go to any industry and I'm sure they have the same exact issues. You can look at people that are doing the same work that Billy's doing, video work, and they're like, oh man, how come they got that gig, doing this,
how
and
come Billy has a drone? I want a drone.
How come Billy gets to film at Bel Air and all this other stuff? But it's like,
hey, Billy do be filming some dope spots, man. Hey, I be seeing them videos like, hey, Billy living the Sadiddy life for real.
He was on a yacht last week. He was on a yacht last week. I don't know if you know that.
See, that's what I'm saying. Billy be out there.
I'm not playing golf in Calabasas though. That's
Calabasas. What do you speak of?
Tell him, Billy.
But my point is like, when all that stuff happens, that's because you weren't with him when he was waking up at 3:30 in the morning. You weren't with him when you went to sleep.
You weren't with me
in
shooting in the gym.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
You weren't with me shooting in the gym.
Exactly. I
always go back to rap lyrics. My bad.
No, I love it. But you weren't with him. You know what I mean? Like, anybody that you see, and I'm not saying this isn't for everyone, because there are some people that have gotten to their place by pure chance and pure luck. They ain't done the work, and for whatever reason, they caught a big break. But you know what? It is what it is. I'm not going to get all bitter about it just because, they got something and I don't. Should I just stop working because they got to where they're at and I'm not where I'm at? No.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
That's
so
motivation, if anything.
exactly. So I think what I really wanted to get conveyed during this podcast, and I think even though this podcast has been short, I think it's been a good one, is that, again, if you're the new guy, be motivated. Don't get discouraged. Don't let these old timers take the wind out of your sail. Yeah, you may not get that special assignment right away. Yeah, you may know that you have the ability to go out and do a better job than that person that's currently in this special assignment, but you can do it from wherever you're at in the department. And just make sure when you do it professionally. Don't throw it in people's faces. Don't try to go out there for the clout like we talked about earlier, clout chasing. Do it for the right reasons, and I guarantee you God will honor that. But again, if you're the old timer, you are absolutely correct. Man, there is a lot that comes with experience, no doubt about it. But don't fault that person because they are on a different path than you were on. Don't fault that person, man. Like, don't start just belittling them just because they didn't do it like you did it. And so I think there's a balance, and I really want to motivate those that are listening today, because you might be somebody out there that's gotten passed over on a special assignment so many times you don't want to put in no more. You know what? Just keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep grinding. Don't stop grinding. Like, God may have something better for you. There are. I can tell you personally, there were a few special assignments. All the special assignments that I really, really, truly wanted, I never did. I put in for the narcotic units 3 times, never got it. And if you ask me, I was more than qualified, but I never got it. And it was because I got passed over on those 3 times as a narcotic officer that I was able to go out and be a school resource officer, which is one of the best special assignments that I'll ever do. And I was able to leave a lasting impact, not just on the school that I was at, but on the world. On the world, I was able to do that. And I would have never happened if I would have never got passed over on those 3 special assignments. Currently, I wanted to be a detective. I put in for the detective bureau 3 times, didn't get it. And right now, I got a special assignment that I did not have any inclination to want to do what I'm doing now, and I love it. I'm truly making an impact, taking homeless people off the street, reuniting people all across and especially now in the time that we're in, like it's so needed. Not to be cliche, but it's so needed. And so my point is that when a door closes, a door might be closing for another one to open for you. But if you get stuck behind that closed door and you don't move, then you may never find the other door that was open for you the whole time.
Sometimes you gotta walk down that dark hallway, and it's gonna be scary, and you gonna hear noises. But hey, when that door opened, you like, ooh, I see a light down here. Let me go down here and see what this door is. You go in there and it's nice. It's room temperature. It's a lazy boy, big TV, some snacks. You're going to be like, yeah, that hallway wasn't that bad.
Exactly. So, hey, guys, this was a great episode. Like I said, we got to cut it a little bit short today. I do got to go tee off, not at Calabasas, like Billy says, down at the local, the hood course, the local hood course.
With Tiger Woods.
I got to carry my gun on the course with me where I'm about to go play. So.
It's concrete, holes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I golf in the gutter, baby. So, but we appreciate your guys' support. Please, if you guys like this podcast, make sure you guys continue to subscribe. It is, and leave us a review, 5-star rating, 5-star review. It continues to boost us up the charts. If you guys want, please subscribe to the Common Hero Project. It will help you guys be better on the inside so you can be better on the outside. AJ has some work going on. If you guys want him to come out to your location, come speak to your kids, whatever it is, make sure you guys reach out to us. And I think that's all the announcements I got. Do we have a one has to go today? I want to do one because I have my man Caleb in the building today, but somebody actually sent me one the other day. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, so we do this thing, Caleb, called One Has to Go, which we basically choose 4 things, and we got to get rid of one.
California, or California. Pick one.
Oh, so you gonna be like that? You gonna do Californians like that? Sadly, Californians are moving out of California and making every other place bad now. Okay, Little Debbie snacks. You guys like Little Debbie snacks?
Haven't we done that?
Yeah, I think we did one. So be careful.
Did we?
We had a big argument about Twinkies and zing-zongs or whatever you called them.
Yeah, because he was like, I eat zigzags all the time.
They're called zingers. Thank you.
What?
Oh, okay. I got it. Here we go. I got a good one. Y'all ready? Girl Scout cookies. This is going to be a good one. All right. So, Caramel Delights.
What?
You don't know what a Caramel Delight is? Oh, I already know how this is going to go. Oh, Lord Jesus. So, Caramel Delight, lemonades, Thin Mints, or shortbreads? Caramel delights are the ones that have like the little coconut with these ones right here.
No,
Hold on.
coconut. I thought those were Samoas or something.
Oh, okay.
Or
And then what was the other one? Oh, the lemon
The
ones.
the lemonades, the lemon cookies.
Lemon's
it's
gotta
called
go.
lemonades.
Lemon
Oh,
cookies.
here we go, Billy, with your
Yeah,
nonsense.
the lemonade's got to go for
with your
sure.
nonsense. Caleb.
I'm not a cookie guy.
Oh,
What does that even mean?
what does that
The
even
only
mean?
one I even know about is Thin Mint.
Ooh, Thin Mint's in the freezer.
Thin-
That's good.
Oh yeah.
I do mess with
yeah.
Thin Mints in the freezer, but shortbread
For
gotta
sure.
go. Shortbread definitely gotta go.
You ain't say shortbread.
I did say shortbread. Go back.
Oh,
play-
that was that was the fourth.
So
one.
you're telling me you're getting rid of lemons over shortbreads?
yes.
You're tripping.
Because first off, you dunk some shortbreads and some milk. Oh,
Negative.
bruh. What?
It sounds like it tastes like cardboard.
No, false. Lies.
You're crazy.
The lies you tell.
Yeah, and then Billy over here, I'll get rid of some lemonades. Oh, all of a sudden you start running 5 miles and you want to get rid of lemonades, huh?
12. Like 12. Hey, Billy, I'm signing up for a 4 miler. So that's a lot for me. So
Like a race? You're doing an actual race?
yeah, yep.
Hey, just make sure you drop Shelby your pin, bro, so that way when you fall out, she can come pick you up.
Or she gonna be with me. We doing it together.
Ooh, she gonna
Nice.
leave you.
Oh, she gonna roast me, bro. We ran together one time. I was like, I'm never doing this again because I start breathing heavy as soon as I start running. I'm like,
So I'm a mouth breather when I run, which is why I always run with headphones on, because I start
Yeah.
listening to myself breathing and it makes
like
me
a-
more tired.
yeah. And then you start asking, like, am I about to die? Am I dying right now?
So people hate running next to me because they're like, bro, like
Yeah.
you breathe way too hard. I'm like, hey man,
Yeah.
forgive me, sorry.
You think I smell your breath the whole time? Like, man, this is even worse. I got Ryan breath all in my face.
Dragon. All right, man. Well, hey, we love y'all. We appreciate you guys.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.